One thing we can all see with me here on this stage is that I'm alone. Something that may not be as obvious, though, is that I'm lonely. Lonely and alone. It wasn't always this way for me. In fact, I can distinctly remember a time in which I was part of something much bigger than myself. It was back when I was called Lil Rob. And to be truthful with you, only my grandma can call me that these days. To the rest of you folks, with love and care, my name is Robert Adim Jackson III. I am an Afrofuturist, a poet, but most critically, I am someone's grandson. And I can remember at the age of 4 years old, dancing and grooving to Michael Jackson as if he had written them albums just for us, the Jacksons, right? I can remember at 6 years old, something even more critical than that, my Uncle Billy telling me to stay out of grown folks' business. Now, it didn't mean to disappear, but it did mean to slow down, stop dancing for a second, take a step back, and truly listen. I didn't know it back then. In fact, I didn't listen all the time. But when I did listen, I was able to remember rightly. I was able to sit back. And I think back then they were preparing me for a lifetime of becoming an elder just like them. You see, our memories, much like children, they are fragile, fragile things. Our memories are unreliable. Our memories can be messy. And they are often beautifully non-factual. But it's only through holding these memories that we actually find who we are, or at least who we were. And when we share our memories, we actually get a chance to figure out who the heck everybody else is, including our family, our elders, our community, and our country. That's why when I want to know if I'm really related to Michael Jackson, I don't type it into the Google machine. I call my grandma up. I want to hear her story. I want her to tell me something so unbelievable, I will never forget it. More critically, when I hear her story, she's seen. And when I listen to her story and share it again, I feel so much more seen. Yes, I am lonely. Yes, I am alone. But in holding the collective memory of how she sees me and how she's told that story to so many other people and how I've told that story now to you, I feel less alone. It's hard for us to not see the cruelty in the world. In fact, it's really easy for us to forget we aren't alone. Put that more rightly, we are often sold and told stories by media in the world that we should be afraid, that we should hold our grievances, that isolation is the only way to be safe. Another thing that media in the world teaches us that the only time that we actually will be remembered is at our funerals, that only in death can we be part of a collective. That ain't right. For me, it was also death that led me to my loneliest moments. It was during the pandemic that I had started to forget the stories that were chosen for me and chose me back. I'd forgotten that I'd already been written into the world. It was during the pandemic and losing those dance partners I talked about, losing teammates, losing friends, where I started to want to disappear. Yeah, it was during the pandemic that I not only started to write myself out of things, but I started to feel a guilt for calls not made to people I can't call anymore. Again, lonely, alone, and grieving. How many of you all know that feeling here? But it was during this moment of death I remembered who I was also. It was the passing of my grandfather. He was a 3-time Vietnam veteran. He was the man who chose to go back to war, vigilant. And then when he came home decades later, he chose to tell me those stories, teaching me how to be vigilant, helping me remember where we come from. When he passed, I was asked to speak at his funeral. I was on a stage very different than this, surrounded by people who look a lot different than y'all. But they were all strangers to me in that moment. Because I had chosen isolation and chosen this idea that everyone's a stranger, I felt like a stranger to myself on that stage. I didn't quite have the words to honor that man until I remembered the last words he shared with me before he passed. And those are the words I shared on that stage with those folks to build a collective memory together. And I'm going to share those words with you today. My grandfather said to me on his deathbed, "Robert, you have to live with the choices you make in life." And on that stage, I chose not just to tell his memories and his stories rightly, but in that choice, I found my story. In his past, I found my present. And after that moment, with all those folks who felt like strangers, it was in those stories I was sharing on stage with them that we started to feel like something more whole and not so fragmented. Our memories are fragile things, much like glass. They can be broken, they can be stained, and often our memories, we look right past them just to get to the future. But it is only by holding the fragments of who we are, putting them together with each other, that we can create something with that stained glass that's more beautiful. So in that church, with the mosaic behind me and that stained glass, I found new light. And I started building new collective memories with my kin there and then. But what is collective memory? Well, it's not just coming to funerals and trying to find the truth behind what's happening. In fact, collective memory is something quite simple sometimes. It could be singing the happy birthday song. Now, all of us here have a birthday, I'm sure of that. But we don't all sing that song the same way. In fact, you can hear it in your head now. You think of memories of you singing it to someone else, them singing it to you, probably poorly. And some of us here are thinking, now are you talking about the Stevie Wonder version or the other version? Right? It's in the act of realizing our individuality. Yes, it exists in us as individuals. But it doesn't really matter until we realize it exists in relation to others as well. That even when we are sharing something that we know and know what it is, we have to accept that others know it well and they remember it differently. So in that moment of collective memory, in that moment on that church stage, I found something there. I found my story, I found his story, I found all their stories. And I also found my purpose. It's called Remembrance Day. For me, Remembrance Day is about elevating our elders as they're here today. Before they are called ancestors, we can hold their stories, we can collect their wisdom, and we can live their stories because their past becomes our present. And when we take a step back and we slow down, we breathe, and we listen, we not only see them, we see ourselves. Because when you tell a story, yes, you are seen, and that's very important, especially when you're lonely. Trust me, it's good to be seen. But when you listen to a story, you become the light. And when you do that over and over again, you're not only just becoming a storyteller, but you're practicing something that is ancient and very American. You're practicing rememory, the act of taking the things that are messy, the things that are unreliable, and the things that are very, very beautiful and never quite fully factual, and you make something beautiful and new out of that. Rememory is actually very American. It's something we've been doing for a long time. We do it every day. We drive by roads with names of people we never want to forget. We see memorials and statues of human beings we've never known but hold reverence for. We have holidays that we choose to remember. That's rememory. And my work in Remembrance Day is about elevating our elders today to create a national holiday so that we take the time, take the space to remember each other rightly. It's not easy. I still forget to call my grandma. I still don't remember all the words of this speech quite the way I wrote it. It's okay, because you all are part of this collective memory with me now. And that has given me the strength to be here to share this rightly, even if it ain't quite the facts I wrote the first time. Who we were when it came to rememory and collective memory building as a country has always been a story of liberation. In the 1600s, free and enslaved people beat their feet in Congo Square for freedom locally, until 200 years later, people beat their feet up the way from New Orleans up to Washington, D.C., to look at Lincoln and tell him, how do you want to be remembered? Sign those papers. Build that legacy of freedom. With my work in Remembrance Day, I work in Morristown, New Jersey, with a family trying to remember 4 generations of families who built wealth, opportunity, legacies of freedom in a park called Yancey Adams. And if you went to Yancey Adams today, you'd just see another dog park. But we're working with the old community and the new community to find a better story for all the community that says, who do we want to be here? In my work in Washington, D.C., I'm working with churches that are over 80 years old, that are empty now, that used to be full. Churches that hold a legacy of resilience, community, and faith, and also a stained legacy of a lack of inclusion. But at the same time now, we're working with the elders that's still there to find new communities, to bring in the new families that surround the church, to help single parents and aunties and uncles find a communal space to tell their stories of need and loneliness. We're helping returning citizens find a place where there's light for them to tell their story. And we're also holding space and remembering the lost girls and boys who have been kidnapped, because sometimes remembering rightly is holding space for the unknown and the unknowable. Memories are messy, messy things. And we are messy, messy people. I'm a mess, even here on this stage. And if you're a mess like me, I got a few things to offer you. If you are grieving, that's okay. I ask you to do one thing for me when you leave here. Find somebody and ask them their name, like you would normally, and ask them who named them. If you're a storyteller, yes, tell your story. Please tell your story. But more critically, help someone else find theirs. And if you are truly alone, even in a room like this, or out there in the world, I'm going to leave you with a quote that grounds me each and every day when I feel alone. It's by my fave, Toni Morrison. Sorry, Grandma. Toni Morrison says that water has a perfect memory and that it is always trying to return to where it came from. I ask you all here today, be more like water. Return. You know what it means to return. If you don't right now, you might remember when you get out these halls, so return. And for those of you who want to be more like me, want to do your own Remembrance Day, yeah, you can give me a call. But first, call your grandma. She's waiting for you. Even if she's in the after, give her a call. My name is Robert Adim Jackson III. I hope you remember these words. I hope you remember each other. Thank you for your time.